Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH plus 24 wins in a row and feeling good. Dun, 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 dun. 0 ENSRR92. Little bit. It's so spooky, dude. It's a little spooky, dude. I need 100% focus. Okay, we did it. What do you got for me here? You got a bomb? Of course we're going to take the spirit heart. I mean, this changes everything. Not getting hit on that room. That could easily have gone another way right there. We could have taken damage and then had it be like a golden chest. And imagine what our situation would look like then. We're going to leave that room as a potential enabler for the D20. Do not fear. This is another potential enabler for the D20. Now, we're not going to be able to use the D20 on everything. What I'm worried about, actually, is that if I use the D20... dude, come on. Are you crazy? I just walked over here. Don't be giving me these trinkets I barely even understand what they do. Why don't you just give me the one that's an all-stats upgrade and save us the trouble? We'll cut out the middleman. Hey. Anyway, originally I thought the stats of this run were not that great. I actually think that because of chocolate milk, I have no idea how to interpret the rate of fire, but it seems completely fine. And I'm feeling pretty solid about it, especially getting these random spirit heart drops. This seems completely acceptable so far. So here's how I think about this one right now. We don't reroll this room yet, because the penny could give us a bomb, which could grant us access to that item without spending anything. Obviously, that's not how that went down. Of course, I want the item. I would say that we'll probably go fight the boss just to see if maybe we get, like, Pageant Boy or another one of those items that, you know, isn't actually an item, but is just, like, 7 consumables drenched or dressed up in a trench coat. Like Vincent Adult Man. I've never seen BoJack Horseman, but I'm very familiar with the references. Safety pin. Okay, that's not one of those items. Okay, we got a bomb. Now, it's very tempting, quite frankly, to blow this up and then see if you can get something more valuable out of that. But, you know, with a bomb, just grab an item. Even if it's a question mark. I'm setting myself up for comedic timing. What's the worst that could happen? Alright, it's actually pretty good. I was waiting for Isaac's heart to show up. Today is a Monday, by the way. Hope you're having a good start to your week. You had to do it, didn't you? When is it going to be enough for you? That's not good enough. We probably should not be just aimlessly rerolling, although that one turned out extraordinarily well. You know what? Maybe we'll look for a secret room as well. Yeah, it's Monday. Had a nice weekend, quite frankly. Very relaxing. I'm gonna do it because I can't help myself. By which I mean I totally could help myself. I kind of just don't want to. Let's see if we can find our regular secret room as well. I don't know. It's not gonna be there, so it's not gonna be there. So it's probably right here. So it's probably right here. This is a weird one. But you just, you know, you go through the necessary steps. And look at that. We managed... Oh, baby. We managed to get a lot more out of this floor than you might have originally expected. But yeah, I had a good weekend. Played Deadly Premonition 2 yesterday. I did talk a little bit about Deadly Premonition 2 before playing it. I do want to say the performance in Deadly Premonition 2 is truly abysmal. It is actually, I mean, from an objective standpoint, it's an unacceptable level of technical prowess. You know, it's so framey as to at least in the overworld stuff. People were coming into chat and were genuinely like, why is he playing an old game? And, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but then, you know, having to explain, guess what? It's not an old game. It actually, like, literally just came out yesterday or 2 days ago, and they're like, I don't believe you, and I'm like, okay, well, whether or not you believe me is irrelevant. If you had not known the history of Deadly Premonition 2, you would think that it was a PlayStation 3 game. But, in spite of that, would I say I recommend it? Really depends on your feelings about Deadly Premonition 1. I do also want to say, I'm only, I mean, we definitely do want that. I'm only, like 3 hours into it, but I'm having an awesome time. I kind of expected to be a little bit more, like, anal about the frame rate and stuff like that, but, it's a trip. I'm not sure that I would say it's something that's easy to recommend. However, I would definitely suggest, if you're a fan of Deadly Premonition 1, there's a lot to like in Deadly Premonition 2 so far. Though it is also, it's a shocking... Yeah, we probably want that instead. You really can't believe the performance without experiencing the game for yourself, I think. Like, I genuinely... I'm not a frame rate snob. In fact, I'm still like, until maybe 2014 or 2015, I was still the guy who played, like, most games in a 1280 by 720 window. Even on my, like, you know, 1080 monitor. And even then, you're like, 1080 monitor? He's not even rocking 4K? Or for at least 1440p? No, I'm not. I'm just not yet. When I was, you know, thinking about becoming a professional Call of Duty Warzone streamer, I thought about getting a 144 hertz monitor. I hear it makes a big difference, but even then, I'm like, I probably will at some point. I mean, these monitors are like maybe 6 or 7 years old, but I don't know, it's not urgent for me. So I'm not like a performance snob sort of guy for sure, but it's truly shocking. But I also, you know, after playing it again, I kind of have to say it's one of those games where its actual acumen as a piece of, you know, technological software is completely irrelevant to its writing. But anyway, that's where we're at there. I actually wouldn't mind fighting Krampus here. We're not going to fight Krampus. We're also not going to pick this up. We got a pretty good thing going here. And there's still, like, a lot of meat to get off the bone here. So I actually think you do not take that. And I think we're... Okay, you know what? We're gonna pop this. Oh my god. Why did we pop this? Well, I mean, this... I've never seen this before. This kind of incredibly... I mean, I just can't see. We're gonna try not to pick up the money, and instead we're gonna get a fat D20 reroll out of this. Is the dream, at least. Oh my word, dude. I'm just let me work my way through here, okay? We're gonna get there. We're getting pretty close to the point where we won't actually be able to, not step on a penny in just a second, but... I mean, you want to talk about doing the little things right? How does this, strike you? Normally, I'm not this kind of guy to really care about using a card against humanity, but we're making sure we're in the clear here. So we do want to see what this is, and I forgot, this is what we picked up in the first place. Was this worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Does that answer your question? Not at all? Okay, cool. Fair. It really was just kind of ancillary to the whole thing in the first place. Let's keep moving in here. So, Here's the game plan, okay? We want to play this first, I think. That did not hurt me for some reason. That was weird. I was like, can you not be hurt when you're inside of the poop? I don't believe so. But hold on, you might think that it's a little silly to do what I did there, but I got a whole game plan. And the game plan is going to take a while. I don't know if that would have found it. The game plan is going to take a little bit to be teased out here. The dream is that you give me HP relatively quickly. That's not fantastic. Yo, you want to talk about a good get? How about that? Just was hoping for the best, and on the first bomb picked up the quarter. So now we can actually go into our shop, and on the shop, you gotta buy tarot cloth. I mean, come on. And then that gave us the stars, which we can use on the next floor. So this, I mean, I think you pop this first, even though you're really using the sun for half a heart, which is probably the worst deal ever made in human history. I'm gonna get funky here, okay? I think you blow this up. Then we Ace of Hearts. So I think our goal... Still have no idea why that's working, but one day we'll figure it out. I think our goal is to get a blood bag here. We didn't get blood bag, we got IV bag. But that's okay. At least we, you know, we made a plan and we stuck with it. This ended up not really being as sweet of a situation as I was hoping for, but I think that's okay. We got a decent amount out of this. We got a decent chunk. I don't really want blue map. I don't really want mom's key, mostly because I'm being very picky right now. I think I could take the habit, and then we can, I was just going to say, give you a little bit more, and we don't want the jar. Let's just buy this and get the heck out of town. All right, I mean, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, apart from that, had a pretty low-key weekend. It's a big week. We got a lot of doctor's appointments, you know, baby stuff. We did have, you've probably been scratching your face, jonesing for it. We did have baby class this weekend. For anyone unaware, I think we do want that. I mean, there's different kinds of, like, prenatal classes, right? Like, there's, I was legitimately gonna call it Le Mans class, like the race. 24 hours of Le Mans. But there's, like, Le Mans class. I don't know if that's still a thing, but in, like, every sitcom in the 90s, there was an episode where the two main characters go to Le Mans class. I'm pretty sure Le Mans class is, like, you go and learn how to give birth, which might sound like kind of, I mean, I say it like, you might think it's kind of basic, but honestly, I had no idea. Even until, like, you know, we had the class on Friday, I was like, I didn't think it was easy, don't get me wrong. It wasn't like, what are you complaining about? But I kind of thought, like, you know, nature just takes its course. I think I got this attitude, well, not me, I think, like, a lot of people have this attitude that's like, oh, you know, how hard could birth be? There's 7 billion people on Earth. People are giving birth in, like, you know, dusty field hospitals, or, you know, like 10,000 years ago when there was no medicine except you'd, like, rub the stem of a plant on a wound or something like that. But, like, the thing is, things sucked really bad back then, and there were a lot of medical complications, I imagine. So, you know, because we have modern medicine now, it appears that, you know, the whole birthing process is more complicated because there's a lot of stuff that they do to make sure you're safe. So it's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but, you know, there's it's definitely, it's an involved procedure. But that wasn't really what this class was. A little bit about, like, birth, but mostly about, like, you know, what to expect when you're taking care of an infant child. Learned a lot, quite frankly. A lot of stuff I didn't know. And then we read a couple baby books this weekend as well. Learned some very interesting stuff. I'm telling you, I know I did this bit recently, but I think that this would honestly would be a more valuable class in high school than half of the science classes I took, and I have a degree in science. But instead, you know, the private sector has made up for that deficiency in the public education system. So you, in some ways, you gotta love it, especially if you are having the invoice paid, not the one paying the invoice. But anyway, sorry, it's very boomer core. Regardless, No, it was good, but it also, like, it made things very real. Like, the teacher was kind of reveling, I wouldn't say in our ignorance, but you could tell she'd done this before. And, you know, she's like, if you had to guess, how long do you think, like, a baby cries for? And I was like, I think, I was a little confident, I'll admit. I thought I had it figured out. I was like, I bet, I don't know how long a baby will cry for in a 24-hour period, but I bet that it cries for, like, 45 minutes before you start to get alarmed. And then she pulled out this chart that was like, some babies cry for like 2 to 3 hours. Not per day, like in one interval. And I was like, that's a lot. That's longer than the longest Isaac episode I've ever been a part of. But, oh, I don't know, the basement scene was pretty long. Maybe that was only like 2 hours. But anyway, maybe, she's like, stop talking about Isaac, we're talking about your child. She thought our child was Isaac. I was like, nah, don't, you know, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't name my child after my job. Anyway, but yeah, you know, it was good. It was important to learn, and it kind of brought it home that pretty soon, you know, like Scott Stapp says in With Arms Wide Open, our lives are gonna change. I take a breath, began to pray, and tears of joy streamed down my face. Also, like, I mean, there's a lot of, like, visual aids and videos and stuff that were over the course of this presentation. She played us a clip from Pete Holmes' comedy special where he talks about how you're not supposed to shake a baby, but you're gonna, like, want to shake a baby. There's a lot of time, like, devoted to what to do when babies cry. And she was like, everybody knows you're not supposed to shake the baby. But, like, when you pick up the baby, and by the way, this is not going to, like, at the end of the lesson was not like, you could shake it a little bit. The end of the lesson was like, don't shake the baby, but here's what you do. She was like, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna, like, pick it up. You're gonna be like, are you hungry? And then the baby's gonna be like, I'm not hungry. But I can't really tell you that. You're gonna have to troubleshoot it like an old Linksys router. And you're gonna be like, I don't know, do you want to just be, like, soothed? And then you, like, kind of bounce it around, and it's gonna be like, nah, I don't really want that. Then you're gonna be like, I don't know, are you cold? Are you hot? You know, is you got a full diaper or something like that? You know, did you hear a loud noise? You don't know, right? Hold on, we should be using the D20 more effectively, too. And then, you know, after you go through the whole checklist, if the baby's still crying, you might just walk away. That was, like, the #1 tip she gave us. Was like, if you don't know what's causing the baby to cry, and you've checked to make sure that the baby is completely safe, your job here is done, so that you don't lose your sanity, just walk away. And I was like, you know what? It's a good piece of intel. I appreciate that. Because, I don't know, I would probably, without hearing the blessing of a professional, I would probably, I'm too logical sometimes, even though I say illogical things for a living. I would be like, something's gotta be wrong, otherwise, why would it be crying? But then, now that I think about it, as an adult, sometimes you just have days like that, right? You just, you know, wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and people are like, why are you so grumpy today? And you're like, honestly, I hadn't really considered it until you asked me in this moment. I don't know, I had like a weird dream, and I woke up in a weird mood, and then that just kind of spiraled out of control for the rest of the day. And I've got, you know, the most powerful organic computer. I'm not saying I'm the smartest person on earth, I'm just saying, like, we're all rocking the same brand here. You know, ever created by evolution. So the baby's got is only rocking like a Celeron processor for the start of things. You know, you got to give it some sympathy. That was reassuring. Apart from that, like, it's actually relatively anecdoteless. I wish that it were not the case, but just I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be straight up with you. Pregnancy is, like, really pretty easy if you're the guy. I'm just being honest. Like, this is a 5-hour class, right? We were supposed to have two 3-hour classes, but she was like, oh, we can get this all done today if you guys have time. And I was like, hey, yeah, save me my Saturday. But anyway, the first at least 3 hours were literally just like a to-do list for Kate that was given by Mother Nature. And then, hold on, do we know these? We'll take a luck up. The other pills don't matter. We'll re-roll these. I acknowledge, by the way, I acknowledge that the D20 is one of those items where whenever I use it, I don't use it in the way that's like, hey, you can break the game. So I apologize if that irritates you. It's not my intention. I'm using it to the best of my abilities. And then, like, so, like, during the birth, they're like, I'm not gonna go into any gory details, right? But they're like, this is what you can expect, and, you know, this is, like, a snapshot of what happens, and, here's a video. Feel free to turn away if you got a sensitive stomach. And, like, after that, so she talked to Kate for, like, you know, an hour, and then she'd be like, you just rub your partner's back. And I'm like, alright, I'm taking notes. I can do that. It's pretty easy. The whole, you know, oh, that was close. The whole fatherhood portion, you can really, you know, that's where you make yourself useful. But, I mean, I'm not saying you can't make yourself useful during the pregnancy, but it's a little harder, you know? So it was really, it was a pretty easy class for me, personally, but, you know, if you ask around our household, they might you get a couple of different answers there. Okay, this is big. Get me back here. We have enough bombs. I think we should at least try this. And what I meant to do was blow this guy up too. Dude, it would be so nice to get a penny and get champion belt. I know there's one we can, like, walk diagonally for back here. I feel like this run lost a little steam, but it's still very good. Yeah, we're not getting chaos. I think chaos is kind of... I think I've overrated it for a long time. And that it made it much more real. I'll give it that for sure. I mean, I think it was worthwhile to take, but it did make it much more real. This is like, I wouldn't say I was naive. Well, I don't know. Maybe I am still naive and I wouldn't know, right? But, like, I've been talking about, you know, how hard could it be to have a baby? You know, 7 billion people have done it, and they've been doing it 10,000 years ago, and you know, modern medicine was just rubbing a couple of berries on your open wound. But, you know, she basically, like, audited the time that you spend with a newborn, and I was like, alright, that's a lot of time. Like, did you know that the baby has to eat 8 to 12 times a day when it's born? That's crazy. It's gonna make it really hard to keep up with infant keto. I'm just joking. You gotta, if you thought that people were sensitive, like, to pets on YouTube, you know, anytime you, like, pet your cat in a video, people are like, you're petting it wrong, it's alarmed. I don't even want to invite the people that don't get that it's a joke about infants. It's a disaster waiting to happen. Mostly because a lot of bad actors on YouTube kind of ruined it for everybody by, like, we tricked our kid into thinking that her mom died. Not clickbait, you know? But, anyway. 8 to 12 times a day, dude. That's crazy. You know, here's something that didn't... I felt very stupid, when the teacher was asking us, like, hey, can you think of some reasons, like, a baby might cry? We were like, dirty diaper. Easy. 10 out of 10. Hungry. 10 out of 10. Obvious. And then, in my heart of hearts, one of the next things I thought to say was maybe it's thirsty. And then I went, do babies get thirsty? I've never heard anybody be like, hey, my baby's thirsty. Can you get a glass of water? I had never thought about that. And then I thought about it for like 5 seconds, and I was like, this is definitely the dumbest question I could possibly ask, and I would feel stupid after asking it. But I felt vindicated, because, like, a couple of, like, after the teacher left, Kate was like, you know, I was wondering, like, do you ever give a baby water? And I know it sounds like, how do you not know that? But I don't mean like, you know, I don't think you feed a baby 8 glasses of water a day, or I wasn't under that impression. But I was like, you know, can your baby get so thirsty that, you know, the nourishment that they're getting from, you know, Mother Nature's natural protein shake? Probably the worst way I could have phrased that. I mean, human milk, okay? It's also not a very pleasant phrase to say, but, that's the reality of the situation, you know, we are animals. But I was like, maybe they could just be like, yeah, you know, I've fed 7 times today or 8 times today, but also, like, I've been sweating it up. Can I have a little, you got an Nalgene, Mom? I don't know. Well, I didn't know. Now I know. You definitely do not feed a baby a glass of water. Babies are wild, dude. Learned a lot. If you, by the way, she taught us, the baby teacher taught us, why are you doing this? Oh, so I can get a free payout, sweetheart. She showed us a video that I have seen before, but is perhaps both the most useful, maybe, and terrifying video I've ever seen in my life. It's, I believe it's a UCLA pediatrician by the name of Harvey Karp. And I encourage you, even if you're not having a child, to watch this video to understand what I'm talking about. Because I genuinely think you will find it both interesting and terrifying. And he has like a method to soothe babies. That is actually, I think I saw it on Reddit like 10 years ago for the first time. Back in the days where like when you'd see something on the internet, it still felt like you could get like cheat codes for life. You gotta remember, like the internet in like 2008, people still were like, I can learn things on this. If you know what I mean. Like, it was like, you could, people were obsessed with life hacks. Because, you know, we didn't have this level of information transfer before. Your mom taught you how to fold your laundry, right? And then you grow up thinking, like, this is the way you fold your laundry. All of a sudden, you see a video from, like, Japan, and you're like, here's how they fold t-shirts in Japan. And you're like, what the heck, dude? That's 20 times faster. They've been holding out on us with this information over... Okay, so anyway, you get the idea. Probably should have re-rolled that, or replaced this with an item I actually could take advantage of, I suppose. So he basically swaddles the baby, which you're not supposed to do anymore, apparently, according to public health. And I don't have an opinion on swaddling, because this is my first child, but you're not supposed to have the baby sleep in a position where, you know, its arms are tucked in at its side because it could roll over, I guess. But anyway, you swaddle the baby, and then you kind of like pick it up and you lay it almost like you're holding, I don't know, like a football. Like you kind of lay it face down, and then you bounce it. And then this is the terrifying part. And I'm sure, like, I am not suggesting that this man is a psychopath or a serial killer. If you watch it through adult eyes, it's one of the most horrifying scenes you will ever see. This man is holding a stranger's baby that is crying, and then the stranger's baby, as soon as he picks it up, is silent. Which in your head, you're like, it's afraid. And then he puts his mouth right next to its ear, and I swear to God, he makes like the loudest, and I'm gonna spare you, you can imagine it yourself. He makes the loudest shh sound you could ever imagine, while not shaking the baby, but bouncing the baby and like very intensely making that sound like right in its ear. And his hypothesis, and again, he's like not just a pediatrician, he's also like, you know, head of pediatric studies at a major American university, which doesn't mean he's necessarily infallible, but like the idea is his credentials at least mean he's probably not just like, I just thought it'd be fun, you know? But either way, so he holds the baby like right next to his face and goes, ash, ash, and I can't stress enough how loud it is. If you watch this as an adult, this looks like something out of Silence of the Lambs. You're like, what's he gonna do to that baby, dude? But I've read online, because it seemed too good to be true. I read online that, you know, his methods are kind of unreliable, doesn't work for everybody. But if it works, dude. His hypothesis is that, you know, it mimics the conditions in utero. He's the one who gets all the babies stunned, and he likes to bounce the kids, and he shushes them quite loud. That's in utero by... Well, no, it's In Bloom, but it's from the album In Utero by Nirvana. Didn't really rhyme. You know, it's still pretty early over here. It's only 9:40 a.m. I told you I've been waking up earlier. Oh, Dark Bum got very confused by that D20. That makes two of us. I don't know, man. I mean, this run is, like, unlosable. Oh, it's pretty good. Luck up. You know what? We can drop our trinket. Really just don't need it anymore. Although it's unlosable, I wouldn't mind, you know, knowing where my HP stands for the first time in like 12 floors. But anyway, that's baby class. Also read a free book provided by British Columbian Public Health called Baby's Best Chance. It's a useful book, don't get me wrong. I learned some stuff in it that I've never, you know, learned before, or never knew before at least. But it's also a very strange book to read through. Because, like, there's a huge section on birth control. And I'm like, we're past that. That should be in the prequel that, quite honestly, is, but also should be taught in, you know, public and high schools past a certain age. It's like, trust me, we already, you know, that train has sailed. We got that part figured out. Don't worry about it. But it also is like, and I don't, this is kind of insulting, I'll admit. It's not insulting to me, it's insulting to other people, which is why I'd apologize. If it was insulting to me, I would instead say you're welcome. But you can tell it's written like, it's not always written for the most prepared parents, which is kind of humorous to me, because I'm like, some of the parents who need this advice are probably not going to read this book. They say things that are like, truly absurd, you know? Like in the... And don't get me wrong, it's scientifically apt and accurate, and also it's good advice, but you kind of just go, duh, you know? Like, it was like, hey, when you're having a baby, when you're pregnant, stop smoking or smoke less. I'm like, no, that's... Just stop smoking. I'm not saying it's easy, just quit forehead, but also, like, you know, you're pregnant. It's kind of like one of the... This may be, like, the biggest one. It's up there, at least. But then it was also like, hey, if you're doing, like, hard needle drugs, we'd encourage you to stop. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good advice. You know, I'm admittedly blessed to not have to deal with or have dealt with addiction issues, I suppose. So I can't pretend that I know what it's like, but I also just wonder about what kind of situation you find yourself in where you're like reading this book and then you're like, all of a sudden, honey, we gotta stop with the, you know, heroin. The public health book says it's not good for the baby. I mean, I thought it was kind of self-evident, but maybe it makes this bit come across as mean-spirited. That's not my intention. It's more just one of those things you read and you're like, is there an abridged version for people who don't need this specific part? Maybe it doesn't seem mean-spirited, maybe it just is mean-spirited. But sometimes you gotta... You know, you're reading the book, it's 500 pages long, and some of the pages are like, you know, just so you know, like, when you have a baby, you should feed it. And you're like, yeah, I, you know, picked up on that. I was kind of hoping you might have some specifics for me. Not just like, hey, the baby should have a normal human temperature. I'm aware of that. But I guess it just goes to show, you know, like, there's so much common sense in these books. I wouldn't say that it's, like, necessarily 100% common sense. to raise a child, but it's not rocket science at the end of the day, I suppose. That's when the book is saying stuff like that, it's not like a manual for like a rocket ship, you know? It's not like, if the oxygen light comes on, immediately jettison all ballast, you know? It's more just like, if it's crying, here's like 6 things you can do, and if it doesn't work, then, you know, just leave and it'll stop. You know what was a good piece of intel, though? It was, they were like, too many people are worried about spoiling their baby by responding to their cries too often. This is not, and this is their words, not mine. It's not to say you can't spoil a child or even like a toddler, but a baby is like unspoilable. You can't spoil a baby by, and this was their opinion. I don't know. The people out there have very strong opinions about stuff like sleep training. And you know, I haven't figured out where we're going to be there. We're still in that kind of mindset right now where we're like, you know, let's just get it into the world first, and then we'll figure out what happens from there. But, because I think I've, you know, had that opinion as a lay person, that like, well, you know, you gotta respond to your baby's cries, don't get me wrong, but at some point you gotta just start ignoring them, otherwise it's gonna grow into like a 50-year-old man that's like, I'm hungry! I'm hungry! And I think if you, and again, I'm not a parent yet, but I think if you treat like your 5-year-old like that, you might run into trouble. Like if your kid's like, I'm hungry, and you're like, you know, dinner's in 45 minutes, but you give them like a slice of chocolate cake, think you're not treating them great lessons, or teaching them great lessons, I should say. But again, I haven't been there yet, so I might be like, just take the cake. It's all cake anyway. Slice into anything in this kitchen is probably going to be a clandestine piece of dessert. Hello. That's a meme, the cake meme. Have you been following that? Anyway. So that's pretty much where I'm at. That's baby class. It was good. It was exciting. There is some stuff you learn though, and I'm like some stuff that I mean, you know, you wouldn't screw you up too bad, I think. But simultaneously, hold on. This is a weird one. Let me work with this. Hagalaz, Berkano. We got AWAS and AWAS. I guess we'll hold AWAS. No, we should reroll. Genius. But there's stuff I had no idea of that I'm very glad I learned specifically. For example, did you know that up to 50% of babies, well not up to, like around 50% of babies, experience jaundice? I really thought jaundice was one of those things that only happened as an adult, when you're like extremely sick or in like late stage liver disease or something like that. For babies, apparently it's pretty much, I don't want to say routine, but you know, if you got a little jaundice, it doesn't say like go to the hospital immediately. It's like watch the jaundice. If it doesn't get better in like 3 days, then talk to your doctor. That is it. That was insane to me. It's also like, hey, did you know babies are born sometimes with like a blue patch of skin on their butt? I did not know this. Or it's more purple, I guess. But you telling me, I'm really glad I learned this. Can you imagine being there in the, you know, the delivery room? Your baby comes out and it has a blue butt. I would probably pass out right there. I would be like, I would assume that my wife had some kind of tryst with maybe a Smurf or Dr. Manhattan or something like that. Apparently it's pretty normal. Do you know that, and this one, I'll admit, is a little gross. So I apologize. But I'm going to phrase this in the most scientific way possible, and then if you get mad at it, you're immature, okay? Did you know that female infants can have something called a I think it's called pseudomenesis, which is basically like a period when they're born, caused by the fact that, you know, they've inherited their hormones completely and they've gotten like an adult dose of them from their mother. So essentially, when your baby comes out, it may appear either to be bleeding profusely or alternatively to have a menstrual cycle, which is one of those things I really feel like they should put near the front of the baby book. Because Oh my god. Again, I'm not bringing this up to be gross. I'm bringing this up because, like, oh my god, first off, human beings, not as refined as I thought. But the second thing, and I think we'll just honestly suck that one up right there. The second thing is, like, can you imagine if you didn't know about this, how alarmed you would be? One time, I'll tell you, one time I went to the bathroom, and it was number 2, okay? I'm not afraid to say it. And it was gray, which is really, like, not one of the colors it's supposed to be. And I had, like, a little, not a panic attack, but I was like, all right, time to get my affairs in order. This can't be good. And then I Googled it, and it was like, you're dying. And I was like, yeah, I know. But then it was like, wait a minute, now that I think about it, have you had Pepto-Bismol recently? And I said, yeah. And it was like, oh yeah, that's just normal. That's just something that can happen when you have Pepto-Bismol due to, like, the magnesium in it or something like that. And I was like, all right, I'm not dying. But it scared the crap out of me. Now imagine your newborn infant, and you change the diaper, and it's just covered in blood. Still probably cause for alarm, even if you know it's coming, don't get me wrong. But, like, something to watch out for. Something that, you know, I bring it up here, again, not to be gross, but if anybody else is expecting and has not gotten that lesson yet, there you go. There's one you might be interested in. Anyway, so that's the kind of specific information that I think was really valuable to learn. Either way, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the episode today. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya!